Welcome. So today we're going to make a Bohemian bag, and the products that you'll need is 1.5 yards of whatever material. This is like a woven fabric that I found at the fabric store, and it's super strong, but I think for this I'm going to use double the material so that I don't have to line it. You're going to need a big plate, and this is just to use as a template for cutting the base of the bag, and some fun trim. I got about 1.5 yards of each in different sequin patterns. I thought this would be fun. This one is just so pretty. A tape measure and some pins. Using a plate. You could use a compass or protractor, whatever those are called, but I find that it's just very easy just to do it this way. And so I'm just going to lay it down on the fabric, and I am just going to cut around it and make my line. Now I have a circle, and I'm just going to pin that in place so that it stays. And make sure you're doing this with the right sides facing out, so wrong sides together. Set that aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the strap of the bag. And so what I'm going to use is the edge of this fabric. So I'm just going to use one edge, and I'm going to fold it in half to make my cutting a lot easier and a lot faster. 4 inches across. It's about there, and I'm going to fold it. And I'm going to measure the circumference of this. It says I need about 36 inches, and then plus I want to give myself 3/4 of an inch leeway on each side. So I think I'm going to cut the fabric about 40 inches across. For myself, I want it to be like 1.5 feet high. I mean, I don't want it so huge. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to cut that across. Alright, so now that you have that cut out, I just like to pin it a bit, and then we're just going to double check the length against your base. So how to do that? This is folded in half because I wanted it to be super strong. So the edge that has all the raw edges, we are going to pin here on the base of your bag to make sure you get the right length. So you take your pins and you just start pinning around. Okay. Alright, so that is pinned all the way around. You can already see kind of like the bag's shape kind of taking form here. That's the bottom. This is the body of the bag. So what I'm going to do is, we know that about right here is where I'm going to need to probably end that. Bam. Someone's calling me. A wanted woman. Myself a little notch there. So, one notch there. I'm gonna line up those notches and cut across. Boom. Okay, so that's now excess that we don't longer need. Now I'm going to take this off of the base. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the raw edge on each side. So I gave myself 3-inch allowance. So you're going to hem this side and make sure you're only using an inch of allowance. So if you're going to fold this 1/2 inch and fold it another 1/2 inch to take exactly 1 inch, that's what you want to do. So that way you have no raw edges. So 1 fold and then a double fold, and make sure that however you're folding it, you're only using an inch of that allowance that we did. So we're going to do 1 inch here, 1 inch there, and then when we put it together, we're going to use another inch. Okay, so now I have sewn the raw edge on each side, 1 and 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the top part of where this drawstring is going to go. So if you're folding it in half and you're looking at it like this, you're just going to sew about 1.5 inches from the top, just straight across, so that later when we do the bag, we have a place to put a drawstring, and that way it has like a nice closure. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well. So now I've sewn that, and then now we have this hole that later we can stick a drawstring through. Okay, now it's time for the fun part, which is the trim. So first you're going to determine which side you want to be the outside of the bag. Both sides of the bag of this fabric look about the same to me, so it doesn't matter which side I pick. So now I'm going to grab all my fun trims, and I'm going to place them where I think that they would be pretty. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sew those on there. And you can glue them too, but then you have to wait a really long time for it to dry. So I am just going to sew it on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now the trim is all sewn on there. Gosh, I'm already loving it already. Oh, love it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pin it back onto the base so that we can sew it onto the base. And with this, you are going to pin the right sides together. So the base already has a right side on both sides, so it doesn't matter, but make sure that you're pinning it on the side that has the trim. So again, I'm just going to go all the way around like how we did earlier. All right, so I've pinned around the base, and then what's left is this seam here. So I'm going to pin it as close as I can, and then I should have about 1 inch allowance for me to go ahead and for that seam there. So I'm going to pin this, and then I'm going to pin these together. Just try to line it up to match your trim. Remember this little seam that we did here so that we could have a drawstring. You're going to stop right there. So I'm just going to give myself a little mark that tells me, okay, stop right here, go no further. So again, sew around the base and sew the seam and leave that open. Alrighty, be right back. All right, now I've sewn that and I've inverted it, and I'm extremely happy with the way it turned out. Just to show you what that looks like. Okay, so now what's left to make is the strap. So this was the piece that we cut earlier, and all I'm going to do is fold it in half, like so, and then I'm going to fold it about 1/2 inch on each side and 1/2 inch on the other side. And I'm going to sew it here, and I'm going to sew it here. So So here is the finished strap. You can see how nice it looks. Actually looks like a guitar strap. Put it to the bag and make sure you do not sew it where you're going to put the drawstring later. So maybe give it about an inch of where you're going to sew it, and you're going to sew a square and an X in the middle, and that's usually the most sturdiest way to stitch a bag. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you. So now I have the strap on there, and if you can see, I've done a little X right there. So it's really, really secure. And now we're going to move on to putting the drawstring into the top of the bag. So believe it or not, this is an old shoelace. And I just put a bobby pin just so I have something to use to kind of pull it through. I'm just going around. Okay, that is finally in there, and so you can see that you can pull it closed and you can pull it open, and you want to keep the string to be as long as the bag would be if it was completely open. This little piece is just made out of some scrap leather. I guess you could use some fabric, but I didn't want to worry about having to hem any edges, so I just folded the sides towards the middle and sewed across. And so now I'm just going to put each string inside of here. And then I can pull that open. All right, so that's the gist of it. And then I have, this was just like an afterthought. I have this really beautiful trim that I found at this sari store. And I thought that these little star appliques would be really pretty on the sides of the bag. So I am just going to cut one in. And I'm going to use my good old Aleene's Tacky Glue. It's the very last bottle of the 15 bottles that I had here in the craft room before my daughter started making slime out of it. And I'm just going to put some here on the edges. I'm going to put it right on top. And this stuff does take 24 hours to dry, but once it's on, it's like solid. All right, so I did end up finding a cuter idea. So this tassel I got actually at Target in the dollar bin section, and I just strung a piece of wire through it, put some beads on it, and put it on a jump ring at the end of this little stopper that I made. Now you're probably wondering, where did the end of the leather go? Of the cord. And so what I did is I tied a nice square knot and I scooted it into the bag. So actually the knot is hidden. I thought this pink went really well. So I'm just going to do some styling. I'll let the glue dry and show you what it looks like on. Here's the bag, crossbody. And you can see I made it long enough so that it would accommodate a crossbody length. And if you look here, I have the drawstring with the tassel, and you can pull it closed, and then the stopper's right there. And then I did have some extra material, so I did make a little makeup bag to match. So yeah, this would be good for like music festivals or like t-shirt and jeans, and it's just a statement in itself. Really, really fun and bohemian. But yeah, thanks.